factors in it, but one of them was I was able to see our U.S. history from heaven's perspective. And it was very different, radically different. You know, we say there's fake news. Well, there's fake history out there too that has been, I think, colored by prejudices, by political opinions and things like that. But this was our U.S. history from heaven's perspective, but also a revelation of God's purpose for our country. And I knew that if I went all the way to the end of this, I would be able to see how I would be able to see our own times from heaven's perspective. So I saw things as I was walking in front of it, but my goal was I want to see where we are now and how are we seen now from heaven and heaven's perspective.
And you actually saw the future in this dream. That's pretty exciting to me.
Well, I did see some things, yeah.
Why do you believe God has entrusted you with such powerful end-time dreams?
Well, you know, almost every one of them, it seems, is going to be really controversial. When he gives me something, I'm not trying to build a ministry. I don't care if it affects that. I don't care. I want to be sure I'm conveying the message accurately. And I've decided I don't care what the message is, I'm going to give it. I asked him a number of times, why do you always give me these real hard words? And that's what he said. He said I was mean enough to actually share them.
Well, you said another thing that was interesting. There are going to be some deadly, to the devil that is, intercessors that are raised up. And you were not in that particular line. So in other words, that leads me to believe there are lots of roles in this end-time army.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I think these champions, if you will, I think they're the ones that Jude talked about, or that are spoken of in the book of Jude, quoting the book of Enoch. They spoke about the Lord coming with these mighty ones. These are mighty ones. They walk in extraordinary authority. I believe we're going to see a number, thousands actually, who are going to be doing the same things Jesus did. They're going to be walking in an authority I don't think we've seen since the first century. And they're champions. But each one of them had a specific enemy to go after. And they were also told not to just defeat this enemy, they were told to destroy it.
Now, give me an example of some of these enemies.
I think like racism, bigotry. I think the whole issue of abortion, of child trafficking, there are things like that that are, you know, many, and this is a question I still have, because up until then, I would have said, yeah, if you don't change your direction, you're going to end up where you're headed. And we are, as a nation, headed for another civil war. But plenty of time to avoid it. Plenty of time for changes and things to get resolved. This changed my thinking. It's inevitable. It's not going to happen without this. So now
Excuse me, will this occur in your lifetime, in my lifetime, in your lifetime?
I believe it will. Now, I wasn't given a date or timing on it. Mm-hmm. I have a sense, and sometimes you get a sense from these things that, because of how dramatic they are, that it's imminent. But I do think it is. We're moving towards this faster than I would have expected. Even since I had that dream in December, I see things moving. They're picking up pace.
Now, you said this war would be in the natural and in the spiritual. Tell me about both.
Well, I think the degree to which we win the spiritual war. I think another great awakening is not just what I did see into the future were cities burning. Not all of them, I just saw some. I don't know how that's going to, my people. And we stand up for the truth the way he's called us to and become defenders. Every one of us is called to be a champion of the faith, a champion for his purposes and his will and his ways. I think it could greatly lessen both the devastation, the casualties, and everything else from the conflict.
How bad was the devastation that you saw?
It It was really bad. It was, I know a lot of people, you say civil war, they think pitched battles between armies. I don't think it's going to be like that at all. I think it's going to be in neighbors against neighbors. It's going to be, in some ways, much worse than the others.
I have to believe when you saw history from heaven's perspective rather than ours, even you had a pretty good paradigm of God, but even your paradigm changed.
I was profoundly humbled by we've got to get beyond thinking politically, and we got to take the leadership, we've got to fight for the truth.
So it's not Democrat or Republican, it's the Christian that is going to be in the forefront in this war.
I think so. I did see a third column. I call it a third column. It's like it wasn't a third political party, it wasn't political, but it was a major force for influence in our country that drew the best from both sides. I believe that is supposed to be what the church is called to be.
All right, okay, so you've got a little bit, just a snippet of this, but the key question now, Rick, is physically and spiritually for this war.
Well, in the cases of countries that know they're about to get invaded or something, or there's about to be conflict, what kind of preparation would you do? I would be buying food, resources, all kinds of things to defend myself, my family, there are things like that. But think, okay, what we would be doing in the natural, apply it to the spiritual too, of ourselves. But being Joseph's storehouse, there are many ways that I think we need to prepare in the natural, but then do the same thing in the spiritual.
Give me a couple examples in the spiritual.
Well, like I said, I think of Bibles as the weapons of heaven, and the truth can be books, it could be tracts and things like that. Water, food, that's the Word of God. And the
how do you prepare spiritually with your own intimacy with God?
Well, I have a resolve that every day I try to get closer. I try to take my thoughts captive. I'm resolved to turn all of my vain imaginations into intercession, where I'm not just wasting my time, wasting my mental energy, and in every way getting to know Him better, getting to know His voice better, being more obedient in every way that I can. But I want to know His ways, not just His acts. And I've been in pursuit,
What does it mean, I want to know His ways and not just His acts? What do you mean by that?
Well, I don't want to just know what He's doing. I want to know why He's doing it.
And that's that whole thing of the American history you saw from heaven's perspective.
Yeah.
Now you know the whys.
Right. I know some of them.
Right.
I mean, there is so much more. I was given a glimpse. This whole thing was the most profound thing I remember seeing in any dream like that, but I still know it's a glimpse. We all see in part, know in part. I believe I've been given access. I can go back to that place and see more.